Hello. Been out of touch lately, so just to get back into the swing of things. Well, I'm over 80 now, 81 next in a month or two, God willing, and I last that long. And I'll start off with something a little bit controversial and taken in a light-handed manner, but what I'm going to suggest is what I've described as a wrap bike. And why a wrap bike? Well, I call it a rack and pinion bike, and that's a different type of drive to the normal bicycle. And rack and pinion, if I can just take you down a little bit, and I'll be back after, is take you down to the bench. And on the bench there's a plank of wood and a piece of pipe, and that is rack and pinion. This is the rack and that's the pinion, and you can see that by linear motion you can turn it into circular motion very efficiently, because it works, it doesn't vary. And that's it. So I'll put that over there now, and we'll come back up top and I'll try and explain to you what I mean. Well, at this juncture I will do a separate piece and insert it here about the principle of rack and pinion, but and then you'll look at it after and we'll understand. So I'll carry on now. Now, this is the rack and pinion principle I envisage. Don't know whether it is truly rack and pinion, but here's the big disc, and here's the small one on the wheel, and this is where the chain wheel was, but the chain wheel's been taken off, and the pedals and everything, and that's on a sheet of ply both sides, and that is a disc cut out of ply again, and it's got a bearing in so it can freewheel. It doesn't really have to have a bearing in it if you're, you do to suit yourself how good you want to make it. And this now is set as if it's starting off, and here it's in 3 sections, and so we start at the starting section, and here is where this goes to the pedal itself. The pedal is down here, and you pull it down vertically. So you start off, the pedal would push this down vertically, and what you've got there is a wire from there through a U section, a U cut in the periphery of that plywood wheel, and then it comes down here. It's still solid, and it comes to here and it's still solid, but from here on it's like fiber or something like that. You'd have to experiment with it, and it comes around there in fiber up to something like that distance, so that from there when it's starting off to the predetermined distance there, it would be in fiber. And here is a spring, and that red piece is a spring. So it's 3 sections. That's a solid, just a wire, covered, plastic covered or whatever, and that's another wire with a special cover, or fiber covered or something. If it worked, you could get one made specially, and that's a spring made out of the elastic that you see around chairs, lounge chairs, that tie them to the posts. But I've got some. You'll see it in the video later on in the video, and that's it. Now then, how that works is that pulls down, that pulls that wire around, that comes round, and it goes up there, and then in doing so, it turns that, and that drives that wheel. That could be made of wood as well, and you could actually, if you wanted it, after the first experiment, you could screw that to the existing cogwheel, or use the chain if it isn't successful and have it as a chain. But I think it would be preferable as a wire. Now then, if I take you on to the other, that's when it's starting. I just take that off, and then here we got it when it's gone. It's now that's pulled down, and what has happened is that wire that was previously to here has moved, gone around there, and turned the pinion wheel there. So that's it, and it goes up to there, and it only stops when the pedal has reached the bottom. And what happens then that the spring has been in tension because it's been pulled there, and therefore when you take your foot off here, that goes up because the spring is pulling it back. That turns round, it doesn't matter, it's free to turn wherever it likes, it's just free to do whatever it wants, and that will come back, and the ratchet will work in there, and it starts all over again. On this one here, as I say, with the U section, that would be best for that wire. And if you look at the periphery of that, if you could come end on, there's the wire in the U in there, and down here where it's going through this pinion, also made of wood. You can make it of varying diameters, and if you're pretty attentive, you could actually screw that to the cogwheel that is there, for want of a better word, and that would save you a lot of work. And then you could put varying sizes of that on until you get the right ratios. And in there, that's a U section. In there, on that wooden one there, you'd have more of a V section with a slight U in the bottom. And as that comes round, it would run into the V and it would grip. And therefore, it may provide enough traction to use it to drive the wheel. If that's the case, it'll be very good because it would be light, and then it could be manufactured specifically for that purpose if it is successful. So you'd have one section of straight wire, plastic covered, one, let's say, fiber covered, for want of a better word, and one spring. That spring, as I say, is from a adductor that I'm using, but you'd have that, you could find that specifically. There's loads of stuff on the market now that you can use with. And down here, I just got a couple of little drawings. That is the section of this, a side section of the aluminium sections that there are plenty of them on the market, and that shows that is running with a bearing there and a bearing there. Is actually a set of bearings, and that holds it the pedal straight or straight out. And then when you take your foot off, then they would allow it to go back up. And that's a plan looking down on the top of it, where you can see the two bearings, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's the pedal sticking out. Okay, so we take it from there. Right. With what I'm going to say, and that is that if you want to put a rack and pinion on a bike like this, and I haven't seen it done, and I don't know whether it would work or not, but somebody could, if they got a workshop and they got quite interested in doing these things somewhere in the world. Somebody will give it a go if I put it on YouTube and tell me where I've gone wrong. But here we go. So you want a rack and pinion. Well, what I would do is I would take this off the two cranks, get rid of all that altogether, take that, leave the hub there, whatever, take the chain off, etc. And then when all that is free, it'll be flat. I would put a piece of plywood, about 5 to 7 mil thick, good quality plywood, so that and clamp it back on both sides, so that it got a nice firm base, and then you can experiment on that, you see. And then what I would do then, I would establish the principle. You already seen the rack and pinion principle by now, because I put it there. And then I would determine where the wheel would come, and that would be somewhere around there, because your foot could start about there. That's what once come down vertically there, doesn't it? Once come down vertically there, when your foot is driving it down the pedal, and therefore that would have to be about there. If it's lower, it would hit the floor, so you've got to come up a little bit. That doesn't matter, because we're going to take it all to pieces. And then I establish it there, and I bolt it through there, because I would, if it was me, which I'm not going to do it, braze a piece on there so that you could have a shaft through, and then you could put that on there, on a bearing, so that's freewheel. It can spin it round if you like, and that's it. You'd have to do 2 separate ones each side. So in principle, if I do this one, and it'll be the same the other side, and then that'll be there at the right place. And I would say that's about right. So when it's coming down there, you've got about enough paddle to move the rack principle. And so then you've got a wire coming around here, going across here, and around there. Now then, as you know, when that is down, because I put it on a separate video and it's combining with this, when it comes down, when it comes down and it's driven, then that will be up there and to there, just round to there, just come from there, the driving part. And then when it goes up, that comes round and it stops just about there, so that it's always on that second piece of material. Now then, I would make this out of wood, also out of plywood, and I would put a U round the perimeter, a U profile, so that the wire could slide, could fit in there, and it would rotate, and that would be very good. And then here you could put, if you like, another wooden one, just for trial. You could actually bolt it onto the gear wheel there, and you might get it in, and you could make it slightly bigger or slightly smaller. If you're doing it from wood, you could make different sizes, different permutations, and change them about from smaller to a bit bigger, bigger to a bit smaller, and try and get it to fit. And then, as I said to you, as I explained on this previous piece of video, then you would have various pieces of different material for driving it. You would have, come in here, you would have a wire coming around there, and then starting off it, and then depending on what part of the cycle it is, it will change then to a fibre covered wire there, and instead of being a U section, it would be a V groove in that wooden thing, in that wooden piece there, and then from there on you would have a spring, in order so that when it's driven, that spring from here would stretch, and it would be something along this principle like that, see. But instead of being up here, going like that, this would be fixed, and it would be here, coming off the bottom here. I just put it off the top for now. It'd be sort of going like that. And instead of going like that, that's fixed now, but we'd have the fixed end up here, wouldn't we? So that's it. This is the type of material that they have in these lounge chairs, where they lace them to the frames. It's quite effective stuff. It's very strong, and it's very effective. And as a first stopgap, I would recommend that, you see. And that's it. And as I say, I don't think I've forgotten anything, but you could make various sizes of that. You would have to try various sizes and various sizes of that. You might be able to find it successful in bolting that to that sprocket. And if you could get this side working, you would have to put a sprocket the other side. But you'd lose a lot of weight in here, because this would be a lot lighter, and therefore you can afford to have it repeated on the other side. The beauty of it is as I say, it'd be coming from here, and all the way down, it's coming down there, all the way it's coming down there. It's at the right angle. It's at the right angle to give maximum efficiency, in my opinion. I might be totally wrong, and he'll tell me off for even suggesting it, but that's it. So that's what the idea I got is up there in an aluminium casing, bolted to the plywood round there, and then that changes to the V, to the fibre covered wire, and then you'd have a V grooved here, not a U-groove, piece of timber there, a disc, and then coming along there, and then when it comes to here, this would be not connected in there, it'll be there, and it'll be up there, and then it'll be doing that, wouldn't it? Like that. Beauty of it is there is that when it's there, it's given maximum pressure, so when you do release it, so you wouldn't have to have it all that long, and when you do release it, as it comes, the pressure comes less, so therefore you're only you're only getting the pressure at the start, and then it would come up like that. But you get something that do the trick like that. Yeah. So that's it. That's what I had planned. If you think it'll work, then have a go, because the world's pretty desperate for something for people to get from A to B, and if that was to work, and if it was it would be lighter, and it was to go and to work on a better principle, probably more efficient, I don't know, but if it was, then you could use the pedals independently of one another like that, or you could go up, stand up, and then sit on the seat, and when you stand up you push them down, sit on the seat, come up, stand up, down, up and down, or one like that, and you might get quite a good result. I don't know, never tried it. Sounds like a good idea, but if somebody can bring it into use even on one side just to make, but it'd be difficult to ride with just the one, because it'll block, but you might be able to, and then it's just easy enough to, if you can do it on one side, you can do it on the other, and if it works, I'd be very pleased, and that's that. So I'll leave it with you and see how you go. Bye bye.